Greetings, wizards! As a Skyrim wizard here on YouTube, you'd think I'd be drowning in magic videos, but alas, that is not the case. So today, we're fixing that by exploring Skyrim's most overpowered spells from every school of magic, except enchanting of course, as it has no spells. We're talking alteration, conjuration, destruction, illusion, and restoration. And because I'm a thorough mage, I've split each school into juicy subcategories. But fear not, I will explain each category as we go. So grab your staves, prepare your spells, and let's unlock the true potential of Skyrim's magic. Alteration. Alteration may not be the flashiest school of magic, but it offers some of the most useful spells in the game. And to determine the best, we'll be looking at three key categories: crowd control, defense, and utility. Now let's begin with the first. Crowd control. When it comes to crowd control within the Alteration school, there are several spells worth considering, and first up we have Ash Rune. Just like any other rune spell, you slap this one on a nearby surface, and when an enemy stumbles upon it, boom, they're transformed into a statue of hardened ash for a solid 30 seconds. But here's the catch: while they're busy impersonating a garden gnome, they're also invulnerable, so you can't do shit. So yeah, Ash Rune and its baby brother Ash Shell, more like Trash Rune and Ash Smell. But fear not, my fellow wizards, because that leaves us with two main contenders: Paralyze and Mass Paralysis. These spells don't just freeze your enemies, they leave them as helpless as a newborn skeever in a den of hungry cats. Now, Paralyze is like a fine mug of mead. It's quick, it's effective, and it gets the job done. But Mass Paralysis, that's the whole damn keg. This beauty paralyzes everything within a 40-foot radius for a glorious 15 seconds. Now yes, it takes a while to charge up and you're incredibly vulnerable during that time, but worry not, friend, for that's where Become Ethereal comes in. Pop this shout just before you start casting and you'll be as untouchable as a ghost. But a word of warning, Mass Paralysis does not discriminate. So unless you want your allies looking like mannequins in a shop window and guards chasing you like you stole their sweet rolls, be mindful of your surroundings. Sadly, some enemies like those pompous dragon priests also laugh in the face of paralysis, but at least it works on those annoying swarms of Falmer, Forsworn, and Draugr, which is where it's most useful. So if you're looking to stop your enemies dead in their tracks, leaving them vulnerable, Mass Paralysis is the way to go. Defense. The Alteration school is renowned for its defensive capabilities, boasting 5 impressive flesh spells. But the one that stands head and shoulders above the rest in my opinion is Dragonhide. Sure, it guzzles your magicka like a college student at a free bar, but the protection that it offers, very good. We're talking 80% damage reduction for a solid 30 seconds. Just to put things into perspective, that's the equivalent of achieving a maximum armor rating of 567. So you'll be tougher than a dwarven centurion's backside. Now I know some of you Ebony Flesh fanatics are out there screaming, but Ebony Flesh lasts twice as long. And yes, you're right, but with the right perks, stability, and dual casting, you can hold down both casting buttons to stretch Dragonhide's duration to 99 seconds. Throw in some vampirism and the Necromage perk on the side, and you could literally take a nap in the middle of a dragon fight. The only downside of dual casting this spell is that it sucks up your magicka faster than a vacuum cleaner in a confetti factory. But fear not, my frugal friends, with the Secret of Arcana, magicka problems become a distant memory. So if you're looking for a spell to scale up your defenses, Dragonhide is the way to go. Utility. There are some seriously useful spells within the Alteration school, and even though my most used utility spell is probably Candlelight, that doesn't necessarily mean it's the best. Don't get me wrong, I love being able to banish the darkness with a flick of my wrist, but torches do the same thing. so Candlelight and its brighter cousin Magelight are out. Next up, we have the detective duo, Detect Dead and Detect Life. But they're a bit picky and only work on certain creatures. So if you really want to see what's lurking in the shadows, Aura Whisper is your best bet. It's like having X-ray vision, revealing all life forces around you for 30 seconds. So the detect spells just don't make the cut. Now, Equilibrium allows you to convert your health into magicka, which sounds interesting, but honestly, I just never found it useful. Plus, it can be more dangerous than a cornered sabercat if you're not careful. So Equilibrium, you're out. That leaves us with 3 contenders: Telekinesis, Water Breathing, and Transmute. Telekinesis is fun, I'll admit. It's like having the Force, but sadly, it's useless in combat. So Telekinesis, get out of here. Water breathing is definitely handy for those underwater treasure hunts, but Argonians have gills that would make a fish jealous. And for the rest of us landlubbers, we can just slap on a water breathing enchanted helm. So by process of elimination, we arrive at our champion, Transmute. This spell is like the Midas touch of Skyrim, turning iron ore into silver ore, and silver ore into gold ore. So forget mining for hours, just grab some iron ore, which is abundant in Skyrim, and you'll be swimming in septims before you know it. Plus, that gold ore will level up your smithing faster than you can say Daedric armor. So if you want to become a blacksmithing legend and swim in a sea of septims, then Transmute is the most awesome spell in the game. Conjuration. Conjuration is arguably Skyrim's most versatile school of magic, allowing you to summon creatures to fight alongside you, conjure weapons from thin air, or even banish your foes to oblivion. And to determine the absolute best, we'll be examining spells across 3 categories: battlefield control, damage, and summoning. Now let's get started with the first. Battlefield control. Alright, when I say battlefield control in Conjuration, I'm talking about 3 spells that let you play Puppet Master with Daedra. Banish Daedra, Command Daedra, and Expel Daedra. These spells give you the power to tame those chaotic creatures who, let's be honest, can be some of the most challenging enemies in Skyrim. Banish Daedra sends those weaker Daedra packing back to oblivion. Expel Daedra sends the bigger baddies back to the void. But the real star of the show here is Command Daedra. This bad boy lets you turn a raging Daedric beast into your own personal attack dog.
Nothing.
So summon up the courage to cast Command Daedra and you'll control the battlefield. Damage. Now hold your horses, summoners. We'll get to your furry, scaly, and sometimes spiky friends in the next category. Right now, it's all about those ghostly weapons that make you feel like a spectral warrior. We're talking about Bound Battle Axe, Bound Bow, Bound Dagger, and Bound Sword. These bad boys are the ethereal equivalent of a Swiss Army knife. They weigh nothing, never need recharging, cannot be disarmed, and can be used in places where weapons are strictly forbidden. Oh, and did I mention they look absolutely badass? But let's face it, in Skyrim, all roads lead to the Stealth Archer. It's as inevitable as a dragon showing up when you're trying to pick a mountain flower. Happens every time. And when it comes to dealing the most damage, the Bound Bow reigns supreme. This thing is basically a Daedric bow on steroids, firing off spectral Daedric arrows at a blazing fast speed. In fact, with the Mystic Binding perk, this baby delivers more damage per second than any non-upgraded bow in the game. So it's an absolute beast, but it doesn't end there. Slap on the Soul Stealer and Oblivion Binding perks, and your Bound Bow transforms into a triple enchanted weapon of mass destruction. You'll be soul trapping, banishing, and even turning undead all the way up to level 99. So literally any susceptible creature will be cowering before you. So what are you waiting for? Grab yourself this spell, and you'll be bound to hit your targets and send them running for the hills. Summoning. Skyrim offers a ton of summoning spells, 21 to be exact. That's enough to make your head spin faster than a Draugr in a washing machine. So let's chop that list down like a lumberjack and separate the weaker summons from the heavy hitters. There we go, much better. Now let's find out which of these bad boys is the real MVP of the summoning circle. Straight off the bat, let's ditch those master level conjuration spells. Sure, they're powerful and can be summoned permanently, but honestly, what's the point? Like, do you seriously want a storm thrall constantly blasting your eardrums with thunderclaps every second? No thanks. You'd be better off summoning something for a quick burst of chaos than sending it back to oblivion. So farewell, Flame, Frost, and Storm Thralls. Conjure Ash Guardian is pretty cool, I'll give you that. But these guys need a Heartstone to stay friendly, and those things are rarer than a sober Nord in a meat hall. So unless you fancy spending your days crawling through caves, we'll have to give this one a miss. Alright, now let's talk Atronachs. Out of the bunch, Storm Atronach is the best. This electrifying rockstar zaps enemies with lightning bolts, like Zeus on a bad day, dealing way more damage than those puny Flame or Frost Atronachs. So we can say goodbye to those two. Conjure Seeker made it quite far, but let's be honest, they're about as exciting as watching paint dry. Next, Dead Thrall? The ability to reanimate the dead? Hell yeah! But wait, hang on a minute. Oh, hell no. It's like having a whiny ghost following you around. Dead Thrall gets the boot. Okay, we're down to the final four. Conjure Dremora Lord, Conjure Storm Atronach, Conjure Wrathman, and Conjure Arniel Shade. These guys are the heavy hitters. Two are melee masters, while the other two are ranged specialists. So it's a tough choice. But with the Twin Souls perk, we can double the trouble. So let's pick the ultimate combo for maximum carnage. For close combat, it's a clash of the titans, Wrathman versus Dremora Lord. And while the Wrathman is tough as balls, boasting more health and tanking more hits, the Dremora Lord emerges victorious. Why? Because it deals significantly more damage, isn't weak to fire, and shouts those intimidating one-liners.
Are you prepared for your death?
So yeah, the Dremora Lord takes the crown for close-range combat. Now, for our ranged champion. Arniel Shade summons Arniel Gain, a mage so powerful he costs 0 magicka to cast. He's also invulnerable, unlike the Storm Atronach, so will rain down destruction on your foes for the full 60 seconds, even healing you in a pinch. The only downsides of Arniel Shade is that it takes 2 hands to cast, requires the patience of a saint, and doesn't benefit from which the Storm Atronach does. But 60 seconds is more than enough time for him to wipe the floor with your enemies. Plus, with the Become Ethereal shout, casting time becomes a non-issue. So for me, Arniel Shade takes the crown for long-range summons. But hold your horses. We can't move on without a special shout-out to our spectral steed, Arvak. This fiery horse is the best in Skyrim, hands down. He's like a phantom Ferrari, but without the hefty price tag and questionable gas mileage. And the best part? You can summon him anywhere. Yes, even indoors. So say goodbye to those pesky encumbrance issues. You'll be carrying more loot than a dragon's horde. So go forth with these summons, and with them, you'll be conjuring up a victory in no time. Destruction. Destruction magic. It's Skyrim's most straightforward and arguably most satisfying school. And to find the best of the best, we'll be looking at spells from apprentice to expert level. Yes, I'm excluding novice and even master level spells, because they suck. Now let's unleash some fury. Apprentice. Meh, apprentice, it's only 1 level above novice, so there can't be any good spells here. Don't be fooled, wizards. Sometimes the smallest spark can ignite a wildfire. And in this case, that spark is called Ignite, found on Azidal's Ring of Arcana. Now on its own, Ignite is like a wet fart in a hurricane. barely noticeable. It sets your foes on fire, but for a measly 4 damage per second for 15 seconds. That's just 60 damage. Even with dual casting, you're only tickling their health bars with 120 damage. But don't hang up your wizard hat just yet. We're about to turn this pathetic flame into a raging inferno. First, we need to head over to the Destruction perk tree and grab both ranks of Augmented Flames. This is like giving our little flame a shot of adrenaline, bumping the damage to 6 per second. But the real magic happens when we unlock the Aspect of Terror perk in the Illusion skill tree. This bad boy is like dousing your enemies in troll fat, and then tossing a lit torch on them, adding 15 extra damage per second. But listen up, because you absolutely must unlock Augmented Flames first, otherwise you'll only get 10 damage per second. Why? Because Bethesda works in mysterious ways. But maybe one of you wizards can explain it in the comments. Now let's do the math, shall we? 6 damage from Augmented Flames plus 15 from Aspect of Terror equals 21 damage per second. Multiply that by Ignite's 15-second duration and you've got a face-melting 315 damage. Dual cast this baby and you're spitting fire like a drunken dragon, dealing 42 damage per second for a total of 630 damage. And that's not all, because the damage from Ignite stacks. So if you hit an enemy with 2 dual casted Ignites in quick succession, you'll be crispier than a burnt skeever, taking 84 damage per second for a mind-blowing total of 1,260 damage. 3 casts, 4 casts, you get the idea. And to top it all off, why not slap on Azidal's mask for an extra 25% fire damage? It's like adding a turbocharger to your already blazing inferno. So next time you think apprentice spells are for noobs, remember Ignite. This build proves that even the smallest spark can inflame a powerful victory. Adept. Skyrim gives us 7 Adept level destruction spells, but let's be real, 4 are cloaks that are just less potent than the other options available. So that leaves us with 3 heavy hitters: Chain Lightning, Fireball, my fiery love, and Ice Storm. Each definitely has its place in a mage's arsenal, but while I've always had a burning passion for Fireball, I'm starting to think it's about to be dethroned. And no, not by Ice Storm, but by Chain Lightning, the spell that's about to shock you to your core. Now, shock magic is the most reliable element in Skyrim, as hardly any enemies are resistant to it, making it a safe bet in almost any encounter. It's especially effective against mages, because it not only deals damage, but it also drains their magicka reserves, effectively shutting down their offensive capabilities, like a fish out of water. Sure, shock costs a bit more magicka than the other elements to cast, but in Chain Lightning's defense, I think it's completely justified. Chain Lightning deals the same damage as Fireball, but with a shocking twist. It can leap to new targets like a hyperactive frog on a lily pad. Now you might argue that Fireball's explosion can hit multiple enemies too, but that's limited to a 15-foot radius. Chain Lightning, on the other hand, has a 20-foot radius, making it superior at hitting multiple enemies. It gets even better than this too, because even if you miss your initial target, Chain Lightning will still arc off the surface, seeking out other enemies like a bloodhound on a scent trail. So you can use it strategically, firing it at the ground or walls to hit those sissies hiding around corners. Even when you're facing a mage with their ward up, you can just cast Chain Lightning behind them, bypassing their defenses like a ninja on a mission, hitting them from the rear. It's the ultimate way to make your enemies crack under pressure. Expert. Now I'd love to chat about Unbounded Storms, the spell that breaks the game so hard it needs its own restraining order, but sadly that's a mod and not in the vanilla game. However, if you'd like to see me dissect the most overpowered spells in the Anniversary Edition, let me know in the comments. Now usually I avoid the expert level destruction spells like a vampire avoids sunbathing, as they guzzle my magicka like a Khajiit on skooma. But that all changed when I discovered the sheer power of the wall spells. Yep, I'm talking Wall of Flames, Wall of Frost, and Wall of Storms. And chances are, you've been using these bad boys like a fork in a soup kitchen. Completely wrong. See, the game suggests that we wizards cast these spells on the ground to create a lingering hazard, dealing 20 damage per second for 30 seconds. But in reality, that's super impractical. Instead, what you really want to do is blast these spells straight into your enemy's face. That way, you get to skip the whole tiptoeing through the tulips nonsense and inflict massive damage up front. Plus, the hazard still appears behind them, creating a lovely little obstacle course for their buddies. Now, I know what you're thinking, but my magicka, it vanishes faster than a Nord drains a mead keg. And you'd be right, these spells are hungry for magical juice. But here's the trick. Short bursts, my friends. That's right. Don't hold down the trigger like you're trying to roast a mammoth. A quick blast is all you need to unleash devastating damage and keep your magicka reserves from looking like a beggar's coin purse. With the Aspect of Terror perk, you might think Wall of Flames is king, but in my experience, Wall of Storms is the real emperor here. That constant shock damage melts through health bars like a hot knife through butter. And if you throw in Zakrisos with 2 ranks in Augmented Shock, you'll be electrifying enemies faster than a Storm Atronach on a sugar rush. Just remember, short bursts are key. Don't go burning through your magicka, otherwise you'll be the one feeling drained. Illusion. The Illusion School of Magic offers a unique and powerful approach to combat, and to determine the most overpowered spells, we'll be delving into 4 key subcategories: Pacify, Fear, Frenzy, and Rally. Now let's begin with the first. Pacify. In the realm of calming the heck out of your enemies, we have 3 contenders: Calm, Pacify, and Harmony. 3 spells that sound like they were named by a hippie on a yoga retreat. Now on the surface, they all do pretty much the same thing, slapping your enemies with a chill pill, turning them into docile little lambs for a bit. And since Harmony is the master level calm spell, you would think it's the top dog, right? But sometimes the underdog steals the show. While it's true, Harmony can soothe the savage beast up to level 25, and Pacify only works on those up to level 20, there's a secret ingredient that throws a spanner in the works. Perks, baby. You see, both Harmony and Pacify get a boost from the same perks, but Pacify has a trick up its wizardly sleeve: the Illusion Dual Casting perk. This little beauty multiplies the spell's effective level by 2.2. Suddenly, Pacify is like David facing Goliath, calming enemies all the way up to level 83. That's like 99% of the enemies in the game. And while your foes are busy pondering the mysteries of the universe, their health won't regenerate, giving you the perfect chance to sneak up on them for a critical hit. So don't get stressed out trying to decide which calm spell to use. Just go with Pacify and enjoy the peace of mind. Fear. Fear spells cause your enemies to turn tail and run like a startled rabbit, giving you the perfect opportunity to strike while they're busy soiling their armor. Now you might be thinking, why not just use Pacify spells? Wouldn't that be more civilized? And sure, Pacify spells are like giving your enemy a nice cup of chamomile tea, but the moment you poke them with your sword, it's like you just poured that tea right down their lap. They'll go from 0 to I'll rip your spine out through your nostrils in a heartbeat. Fear spells, on the other hand, no such drama. Your enemies are too busy trying to escape their own shadow to even think about fighting back. So, you can unleash your fury without them retaliating. Skyrim gives us 3 flavors of fear: Fear, Rout, and Hysteria. And just like the Pacify spells, you might assume that Hysteria, the master level spell, is the most overpowered. But you'd be wrong. The real MVP here is Rout. When you dual cast Rout with all the relevant perks, you can affect enemies all the way up to level 88. And compared to Asteria, which only works on enemies up to level 45, Rout is like a roaring lion versus a purring kitten. The only issue with these fear spells though is that your terrified enemies can be harder to catch than a greased up skeever in a snowstorm. But fear not, my fellow wizards, because if you cast a frost cloak beforehand, you can slow them down, turning them into sitting ducks. Plus, unlike pacify spells, your enemies remain hostile, so your summons and followers will chase them down like a pack of hungry wolves on a scent. So, master the art of fear spells, and you'll be the most dreaded mage in all of Skyrim. Frenzy. These bad boys are like a box of fireworks on a windy day. Unpredictable, chaotic, and oh so satisfying. They cause your enemies to become frenzied, attacking anyone and everyone around them regardless of friend or foe. So the trick is to make sure you're out of harm's way before your group of enemies tear each other apart. Skyrim blesses us with 4 flavors of frenzy: Fury, Frenzy, Frenzy Rune, and Mayhem. They're all fun and games, but the alpha of the pack has got to be Frenzy. With the right perks and a bit of dual casting magic, Frenzy can send enemies up to level 79 into a frothing rage. Mayhem, on the other hand, the master level version, taps out at level 47. So if you want to conserve your magicka and turn more enemies into a chaotic mosh pit, Frenzy is the way to go. Now you might be wondering how it stacks up against Pacify and Fear. And in my opinion, those spells are like the shy kids at the school dance compared to Frenzy, the life of the party. Frenzy's just more versatile, more effective, and way more entertaining, especially when dealing with large groups of enemies. You can just cast it on a mob and watch their numbers dwindle faster than those plate of cookies at your grandma's house. From there, it's easy pickings. For all you sneaky archers and dagger-wielding assassins, Frenzy is your new best friend. Combine it with invisibility and muffle, and you'll be like a ghost in the night, orchestrating chaos while eating a nice piece of cheese. Because that's what we wizards do. And here's a pro tip for you. Pair Frenzy with the throw voice shout, and lure those unsuspecting fools into a nice cozy group where you can unleash the madness. It's like herding sheep into a slaughterhouse, except those sheep have axes and are trying to chop each other's heads off. So go forth, wizard, and may your enemy's bloodlust be your illusion of safety. Rally. These spells are like the ultimate wingman for your followers, giving them the extra oomph they need to kick some serious butt in combat. Because let's be honest, they need all the help they can get. First up, we've got Courage and Rally. These two are like 2 peas in a pod, preventing your followers from fleeing and granting them a sweet boost of 25 points to both their health and stamina for a solid 60 seconds. Not bad, but dual cast these bad boys with the Kindred Mage perk and that bonus jumps to 35 points for 132 seconds. That's enough time to brew a cup of coffee, wipe your ass, and still come back to find your followers clobbering the enemy. Now you might be wondering, what's the difference between these two anyway? Well, imagine Rally is like throwing a party in a phone booth. Everyone within 15 feet gets a piece of the action. Courage, on the other hand, is like a laser beam, focusing its power on one lucky follower. So if you've got a whole posse rolling with you and don't want to play favorites, Rally is your go-to spell. Now let's talk about Call to Arms. This spell is like unleashing a hurricane of buffs, increasing all combat skills, health, and stamina of your allies within 100 feet by a solid 25 points. Oh, and did I mention it lasts for a whole 10 minutes? Yeah, that's a long-ass time, but a bit overkill if you ask me. Like, how often are you stuck in a brawl that lasts longer than a microwaved burrito? If you just started counting, then you're probably doing something wrong. But the real kicker is that these rally spells stack together. So combine Courage, Rally, and Call to Arms, and your followers will transform into a pack of wolves on Red Bull, ready to tear their enemies to shreds. Sprinkle in the Master of Mind perk, and these spells will even work on your summons and thralls. But not Call to Arms though. It's got a little bug where the increase in combat skills doesn't work on undead, Daedra, or automatons. So if your crew looks like something out of a Halloween party, you'll only be able to buff their health and stamina. So ditch the best spell mentality for this category. Instead, mix and match these spells like a mad scientist, and rally your troops to victory. Restoration. Restoration magic offers a diverse range of spells that can be invaluable to your playthrough. And to determine the most overpowered spells in this school, we'll be examining 3 key categories: damage, healing, and turning. Now let's delve into the first. Damage. Damage spells in the Restoration School might seem a bit niche at first glance, as they only affect undead creatures. But since Skyrim is practically a retirement home for Draugr, vampires, and skeletons, it's really not a bad deal. So what are our weapons of choice in this holy war against the undead? Well, we've got Sunfire, Poison Rune, Stendarr's Aura, Vampire's Bane, and Bane of the Undead. Names that sound like they belong on the cover of a death metal album. But just because they sound good, it doesn't necessarily mean they are good. Take Poison Rune for example. It doesn't work on dragons, undead, Daedra, or automata, making it about as reliable as a farmer's eyesight. And Bane of the Undead? Sure, it's powerful, but Dawnbreaker pretty much does the same thing, only with more style. And Vampire's Bane and Sunfire? They've got nothing on Ignite. But fear not, for we have a champion amongst us. The undisputed king of undead destruction, Stendarr's Aura. This bad boy wraps you in a cozy aura, like an inferno of holy fury, dealing 10 points of damage per second for 60 seconds. So it's already great by itself. But combine it with the Necromage and dual casting perks from the Restoration skill tree, and you'll increase both its magnitude and duration, turning you into an absolute nightmare for the undead. And that's not all. For the ultimate undead annihilating combo, dual cast Stendarr's Aura, equip Dawnbreaker in one hand and Ignite in the other. It's like a 3-course meal of pain for those poor rotting souls. The Aura softens them up, Ignite sets them ablaze, and Dawnbreaker delivers the final glorious coup de grace. It'll be a grave mistake for any undead to cross your path. Healing. These spells are like the chicken soup of the spell-casting world. They can get you and your allies out of a ton of hairy situations, and go hand in hand with those rally spells. And the best restoration healing spell has got to be Grand Healing. This spell is like a warm hug from your grandma after you face-planted off a dragon. It heals everyone within a 15-foot radius for a whopping 200 points. And fear not, this spell only affects your allies, so there's no worry about accidentally healing your enemies and making them even stronger. Now, to upgrade Grand Healing from a hug to a full body massage, the Regeneration and Respite perks are a must. With Regeneration, you and your allies' health will shoot up to 300 points. And Respite, that'll give everyone's stamina the exact same boost. So not only will you be as healthy as a horse, but you'll be as fit as a greyhound, sprinting around the battlefield like a caffeinated squirrel. But there is one small problem. There's a good old bug that makes Grand Healing pretty much useless against undead, Daedra, and automata, as only their stamina gets a boost. So yeah, not ideal. But if your battle strategy involves summoning Daedra or undead, you can always just summon in another one. It's like trading in your old beat-up car for a shiny new model with a full tank. So restoration spells, they're not just good, they're really good. Turning. These spells are specifically designed to turn undead creatures. But as we've discussed, Skyrim's got enough undead to make a necromancer retire early. so knowing how to use these spells effectively can be a lifesaver. We'll start with the baby spells, your Turn Undead and Repel Undead. These are like the training wheels of undead busting, good for shooing away the odd skeleton in your early days. But against a Deathlord, you'd have better luck offering it a cup of tea and a biscuit. But fear not, wizards, we're not here to mess around, are we? No, we're not. We're bringing out the big guns, spells that'll make those undead critters scatter like cockroaches when you flick on the kitchen light. We're talking Circle of Protection and the King of Kings, Guardian Circle. Now I know what you're thinking. Guardian Circle? But that's expensive, slow to activate, and only works on undead up to level 43. Circle of Protection and Repel Undead are way better. And you know what? You're absolutely right. But you're missing the secret ingredient, my friend. Spell absorption. See, Guardian Circle is a sneaky little spell, and when you're on the inside of its protective embrace, the game thinks it's a spell that's constantly hitting you. And this constant attack triggers your spell absorption effect. And you know what that means? Unlimited power. With the right gear, perks, and Atronach Stone, you'll become a magical sponge, soaking up the magicka of your Guardian Circle like a parched camel at an oasis. From there, you can unleash a symphony of destruction without having to worry about running out of juice. On top of that, Guardian Circle will continue to do its job, causing any undead foolish enough to enter, up to level 43, to flee faster than a vampire at a garlic festival, while also healing you for 20 points per second. And don't forget about those juicy perks to increase its duration. You'll be able to hold that circle longer than a Gen Z holds onto their phone. Now it's worth noting that Circle of Protection is supposed to do the same thing, granting you that sweet spell absorption. But it's not quite working as advertised for me. Still, give it a whirl and let me know in the comments if you have better luck. So there you have it, wizards, the most overpowered spells in Skyrim across all schools of magic. If you enjoyed this magical journey, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more Skyrim content. And as always, feel free to share your thoughts, tips, tricks, and strategies in the comments below. Thanks for watching, wizards, for this has been the Welsh Wizard. I shall see you all in the next one.